Introduction. Picture a scenario where you've just been to your annual checkup at the doctor's office. He or she tells you that you've put on a few extra pounds since this time last year. Enough is enough, you decide. You convince yourself that you're going to finally start making meaningful changes to your lifestyle. You genuinely care about your health, and you decide that the next steps you take are going to be the healthiest and safest ones possible. So you do what most people in a similar position would do. You consult the internet only to become overwhelmed by the amount of dietary and expert information available out there. And while some methods will not work for you, you may be curious about the ones you've seen gaining popularity because of how effective they can be. If you think about it, we were not meant to have 24/7 access to highly processed foods. But because of how much most people consume, the pancreas, intestines, liver, and kidneys now must work harder trying to make up and process all that frequent feeding. Our bodies were meant to have breaks or fasts from food so they can rest, digest, recalibrate, and extract energy from fat reserves. When we fail to account for this, it leads to excess weight, glucose intolerance, and inflammation, often with belly problems. There has been a lot of research conducted on helping people improve their lifestyles by eating better. Many food scientists and nutritionists over the years have been continuously developing new ways to improve people's health through lifestyle changes. Whether it's changing habits or your diet, researchers have been discovering new ways to help people improve their overall well-being. In your quest for a healthier lifestyle, you may have already tried different methods to either lose weight or simply improve your health. From counting calories to ketogenic dieting, which focuses on burning fat for energy, you've likely encountered and perhaps sought out a method that works for you on your health journey. For many of these methods, the focus is mainly on paying attention to the number of calories you consume. Because of the emergence of several methods and varying expert advice between the most popular weight loss solutions, it can seem like they are all starting to look alike. This can leave you frustrated and confused about which to try. Well, the truth is that you cannot just pick a random diet method because our bodies all differ from one another in subtle and not so subtle ways. So the decision ought to be made based on what works for you, rather than what is trending at the time. While following some of these methods, you may have had to change your whole cupboard and buy new products to accommodate your altered lifestyle. Perhaps keeping a calorie count has been so exhausting you've often thought of it as tedious and ineffective. Though some methods of health improvement have yielded positive results over time, scientists and researchers have shifted their focus from what types of foods you eat to when you eat it. This is known as intermittent fasting. You may be wondering how intermittent fasting differs from religious fasting. Here's the answer. Intermittent fasting does look like religious fasting on paper, but the obvious distinction that prayer, spiritual realignment, and cleansing are integral to the latter. With both types of fasting, the requirement is that you only eat during a specific time. There are different types of intermittent fasting techniques. Some recommend going without food for a few hours or during a specific time of day. Other methods require complete fasting for a few days every week or for several days each month. Intermittent fasting traces its origins back to ancient times, where the practice was commonly used as a technique to help heal the body. As it's more commonly known, fasting has roots in religion, where it helps followers deepen their faith and connection to the divine. One of the most notable examples of religious fasting happens during the holy month of Ramadan, where Muslims are encouraged to fast from dawn to dusk. Going for a certain number of hours each day without eating, or eating just one meal a couple of days a week, can help your body burn fat and lead to weight loss. Scientific evidence also points to intermittent fasting having further health benefits beyond weight loss, which we will get into. It is currently one of the most popular health and fitness lifestyles right now. Studies have indicated that intermittent fasting can have powerful effects on not just your physical health, but your mental health as well. It may even help you live longer. To realize this, however, it's important to first discuss how the process works. How does intermittent fasting work? It's important to remember that intermittent fasting is not just about starving yourself. The concept is this: when you fast, your body becomes satisfied with the smaller portions you eat while also reducing cravings for unhealthy snack foods. It's highly recommended that when you do eat after fasting, you still maintain a healthy diet. It can be very tempting to overindulge with a triple cheeseburger, fries, and large soda because you've been fasting and only drinking water. But technically, when you do this, you're taking one step forward and 3 steps back. It defeats the purpose. Barsaraba warns that those who eat 3 meals a day, usually with snacks included in between, without also exercising, are consuming a caloric surplus and not burning their body's fat reserves. There are several ways to practice intermittent fasting. However, they all focus on having regular time periods to eat and fast. For example, you may want to try eating only during a 7-hour period and then fast for the remainder of the day. Or perhaps you may choose to eat only 1 meal a day for 2 days of each week. There are many different intermittent fasting techniques you can apply to your lifestyle, depending on your schedule. Choosing the right way to intermittently fast is essential because you'll need to maintain proper nutrition in your overall diet and avoid any unnecessary health risks. Weight loss does not have a one-size-fits-all approach. Intermittent fasting may be suitable for some people, while others find the approach unrealistic for them. You also need to anticipate how you will incorporate intermittent fasting into your lifestyle, especially when it comes to social events and being physically active. Fortunately, there are several types of fasting you can choose from that can slot in and be adjusted according to your life. Types of intermittent fasting. Time-restricted eating, the 16-8 or 14-10 method. With this method, you have a preset fasting and eating schedule. For example, you can fast for 16 hours each day and only eat for 8 hours. Because most people are already not eating during the part of their day reserved for sleep, this method is sustainable and popular. It's convenient and you can prolong the overnight fast by foregoing breakfast, choosing to only eat later during lunch. According to some experts, this method can make the body turn to fat reserves for energy. This releases ketones into the bloodstream, encouraging weight loss. This type of intermittent fasting is a safer approach for many newbies who are interested in experimenting with their diet plans. Some of the most common schedules are the 16-8 method, eating only between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., and the 14-10 method, only eating between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. The time-restricted eating method can be repeated according to your preference. Some people, especially when starting out, may only adhere 1 day each week. It may take some time for you to find the right eating schedule and create a window for this method to take effect, especially if you are a very active individual. Waking up hungry is not going to help either, as you might feel the urge to eat something in the morning. Most people find it easy to stick with this method over time. The twice-a-week method, the 5-2 method. This approach focuses on limiting your calories to 500 for 2 days each week. For the other 5 days, you maintain a normal diet. On the days you practice fasting, this method will typically include separate 200 and 300 calorie meals. It's important that you focus on high fiber and protein-rich foods that will help fill you up and keep the calories low when you're fasting. During the 2 fasting days, men typically consume 600 calories, while women have 500 calories. You can decide which 2 days you prefer to fast. For example, Tuesdays and Thursdays, as long as there is a non-fasting day between them, in this case, Wednesday. Make sure you eat the same amount of food you normally would on non-fasting days. Alternate day fasting. This method involves several variations of fasting every other day. For example, you can choose to limit your calories on fasting days to 500 or about 25% of your normal intake. For some people, alternate day fasting means completely avoiding solid foods on days you are fasting, while other people may allow up to 500 calories. On eating days, you can choose to eat as much as you want. You resume your regular healthy diet on your non-fasting days. This approach can also have strict variations that include consuming 0 calories on alternate days instead of 500. The 24-hour fast, or eat, stop, eat method. This type of intermittent fasting involves complete food deprivation for a full 24 hours. Typically, you'll be doing this only once or twice a week. This method is also known as the eat, stop, eat diet. For this type, most people will fast from breakfast to breakfast or lunch to lunch. While on this plan, you can have water, tea, or any other calorie-free drinks during your fasting period. It's worth noting that this version of intermittent fasting can have extreme side effects such as fatigue, headache, irritability, hunger, and low energy. It's therefore recommended that, should you follow this method, you return to a normal unrestricted diet on your non-fasting days. Doing this will help reduce your total calorie count without limiting the specific foods you can consume. Understandably, going for 24 hours without eating can be difficult, especially when it leads to fatigue, headaches, or irritability. However, Leonard reassures that these side effects will become less extreme over time as the body adjusts to this new pattern of eating. Should you be worried about risks and side effects of this method, you're encouraged to try a 12-hour or 16-hour fast before switching to the full 24-hour fast. Meal skipping. This is a flexible approach which can be particularly good for beginners. As the name suggests, this method involves occasionally skipping meals. You can decide which meals you would like to skip according to the level of hunger you are feeling or your schedule. Those busiest during the middle part of the day could skip lunch, for example. However, it's important that when you do eat, you make sure to eat healthy foods. Meal skipping is considered to be more effective when you monitor and respond to your body's hunger signals. Essentially, when you use this method of intermittent fasting, you tend to eat only when you are hungry and skip meals when you are not. Sometimes we may eat even when we don't feel hungry. You may have even heard the response, "I could eat," when a person is asked whether they are hungry. Sometimes it's only when our bodies nudge us to eat that we feel hungry. It doesn't mean when you do not feel hungry, you cannot eat. Meal skipping may feel more natural for you in comparison to the other fasting methods. The warrior diet. As the name implies, this method is relatively extreme. The warrior diet means eating very little food, often only just a few portions of raw fruit and vegetables in a 20-hour fasting window. At night, you proceed to eat a single large meal. Your eating window is typically limited to roughly 4 hours. This method of fasting is usually recommended for people who have tried other forms of intermittent fasting without seeing the desired results. Proponents of the warrior diet assert that humans are innately nocturnal eaters. Hence, eating at night allows the body to absorb nutrients in line with circadian rhythms. During the 4-hour eating period, you're encouraged to consume a lot of vegetables, proteins, and healthy fats. For example, broccoli, cabbage, beef, lean meats like fish or chicken, and nuts. You're welcome to also include some carbohydrates, rice, pasta, or potatoes. While it's okay to eat some foods, hard-boiled eggs and raw vegetables, for example, during the fasting period, it can be difficult to adhere to the strict guidelines on when and what to eat in the long term. Additionally, some people may find it challenging to eat a large meal close to bedtime. There is also a risk that while on this diet, you may not consume enough nutrients. Especially in the case of fiber deficiency, this may have adverse effects on your digestive and immune health and may increase your chances of getting certain forms of cancer. According to Gong, by restricting the frequency of food intake, we allow our bodies to quickly and more efficiently turn its fat reserves into energy. This happens more during times of food deprivation. Though our most direct fuel source is glucose from carbohydrates, our bodies burn fat for energy when that glucose is not available. This shares the same tenets as ketogenic dieting. Intermittent fasting versus the ketogenic diet. You may have also come across the keto dieting method in your journey to weight loss and improved health. If you have ever found yourself weighing keto against intermittent fasting, trying to figure out which works best, you're not alone. While the two methods share similarities, they also have important distinctions. Both rely on the body burning fat for energy. Other similarities, as noted by Manzanares, include both promote weight loss under the condition that you're eating fewer calories than you burn. Both have the potential to raise the body's insulin sensitivity, which leads to improved glucose utilization and reduced risk of developing diabetes and heart disease. The differences between the two are, with regard to the types of food you can eat, intermittent fasting is much more flexible than keto. The latter limits you to high-fat, low-carb foods. Intermittent fasting utilizes a diet with a higher pool of vitamins and minerals than can be obtained while adhering to keto eating habits. Intermittent fasting can be modified to accommodate those who may need or want shorter fasts, perhaps due to pre-existing health conditions. It's also not a strict requirement to fast every day. On the other hand, keto is all or nothing. You are either in ketosis or not. In addition, keto requires strict daily adherence. Benefits of intermittent fasting. There have been many studies conducted on intermittent fasting, including both animal and human subjects, to determine its benefits to health and overall well-being. Research has indicated that periods of intermittent fasting help in burning more fat, among other benefits. Mark Mattson, a neuroscientist at the Johns Hopkins Medicine Organization, has studied intermittent fasting for 25 years. According to Mattson, our bodies have evolved to be able to go without food for many hours or even several days or longer. In prehistoric times, before humans learned to farm, they were hunters and gatherers who evolved to survive and thrive for long periods without eating. They had to. It took a lot of time and energy to hunt game and gather nuts and berries. Mattson further explains, when changes occur with this metabolic switch, it affects the body and brain. It's worth noting that one person's experience with intermittent fasting will differ from that of the next, and the various styles benefit different people accordingly. Other studies indicate that intermittent fasting may be more beneficial than other diets in reducing inflammation and associated conditions. In addition, there has been a lot of really promising intermittent fasting research on overweight rats, which indicate the weight loss benefits as well as lowered blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar levels that can be achieved. But of course, the participants are still just rats. Human diets have complexities that may be unaccounted for. In recent studies on humans, evidence has indicated almost across the board that intermittent fasting is safe and effective. Despite this, however, a lot of people find it difficult to fast, and understandably so. However, a growing body of research asserts that the timing of the fast is essential and will make intermittent fasting a more realistic, sustainable, and effective method for weight loss, among other benefits. But why does simply changing the timing of our meals to allow for fasting make such a difference in our bodies? Well, according to Gunnars, fasting is embedded in our physiology after millions of years of evolution. It triggers several essential cellular functions, and when we flip the switch from eating to fasting, this helps us burn calories, lose weight, and much more. Next, we'll cover each benefit of intermittent fasting in detail. Weight loss. You probably saw this from a mile away, as it's been mentioned several times now. This is because weight loss is the most common and sought-out benefit of intermittent fasting. Countless people have managed to shed pounds off their bodies and the scale after practicing intermittent fasting, with the most notable results seen in practitioners of the warrior diet and the eat, stop, eat methods. According to Lawler, intermittent fasting can contribute to weight loss, particularly for people classified as overweight or obese. It can also help you lose weight and belly fat without requiring you to consciously restrict or count calories, which can often be very difficult and cumbersome. The science behind intermittent fasting is that it raises your metabolic rate, which in turn allows your body to burn more calories. And, as a consequence of restricting the number and timing of meals during the day, you automatically reduce your caloric intake. Body fat is like a battery. It's your body's way of storing energy in the form of calories. That is why, when you fast, your body begins to make several changes to access that stored energy, calories. For example, this may include changes to your nervous system's activity, as well as major fluctuations in the levels of several crucial hormones. You may want to be aware of the following changes that occur to your body's hormones when you fast. When you fast, your insulin levels decrease dramatically. When this happens, your body begins to facilitate fat burning, which leads to weight loss. When you eat less, your nervous system sends a hormone known as norepinephrine to your fatty cells, which helps break down body fat into free fatty acids that will be burned for energy. As a result of these hormonal changes, short-term fasting has been noted to increase your metabolic rate by 3.6 to 14%. By eating less and burning more calories, intermittent fasting results in effective weight loss by changing both sides of the calorie equation. Research has indicated that certain types of intermittent fasting, such as alternate day fasting on a trial basis lasting between 3 to 12 weeks and 24-hour fasting for 12 to 24 weeks, can reduce body weight and body fat significantly. A 2014 study concluded that such an eating pattern can result in a 3 to 8% weight loss over 3 to 24 weeks. This is a particularly impressive figure, especially when compared to most other weight loss programs. The same study also indicated that participants had lost 4 to 7% of their waist circumference, showing a significant decrease in the belly fat that can build up around your organs and cause complications such as cardiovascular disease. Intermittent fasting also results in decreased muscle loss, less than most standard methods of continuous calorie restriction. However, it's important that you keep in mind the main reason for intermittent fasting's effectiveness. It helps you lower your overall calorie intake. If you binge eat massive amounts of food, even healthy foods, during your eating window, then it's possible that you may lose no weight at all. Authors of a 2018 intermittent fasting study reported a significant decrease in fat mass among participants who were involved in clinical trials. The following is an account of Max, aged 32, who practiced intermittent fasting and lost 48 pounds. About a year and a half ago, I set out to lose nearly 2 decades of weight I had put on thanks to desk jobs, poor eating, and an out-of-control soda addiction. At 5 feet 10 inches tall and 208 pounds, I was looking to get to a goal weight of 168 pounds, which is closer to what I weighed in college. I stumbled upon intermittent fasting, a style of eating that places more of a focus on when you eat instead of what you eat. Combined with exercise, this diet plan helped me reach 154 pounds. Going into diet change, I knew there was only early evidence that fasting can lead to temporary weight loss and that more research is needed, especially on the potential long-term health effects of this diet. This eating style has helped me lose weight, regain my energy, and become more mindful about my eating choices. Limiting my eating to an 8-hour period of the day seemed reasonable. If I exercised in the morning, my first meal would be an early but large lunch at around 11:30 a.m. By 3 p.m., if I was hungry, I could have a snack. At 7 p.m., I would eat a reasonable-sized dinner. No snacking after that. My first thought was that there was no way I would be able to skip breakfast and still work out. Despite having such a large meal, I didn't feel that post-lunch swoon that I usually felt when eating lots of carbohydrates for breakfast and lunch. If I did get hungry in the late afternoon, I would have a handful of salted roasted almonds or a few cubes of cheese. They helped me stay on track to keep my carbohydrates down and my fat and protein up. Rotating the meals kept everything easy. For dessert, I would make a banana shake with almond milk and a scoop of whey protein. That would take my daily calorie intake to 2,500. On days when I worked out hard, that was my calorie target. If I was burning 3,000 calories on the days I exercised, a 500-calorie deficit per day would keep me on track to lose about 1 pound per week. The beauty of intermittent fasting was that it allowed me to hit that target without truly feeling like I deprived myself. Once my body adapted to not expecting breakfast, I was hitting that 2,500-calorie mark like a metronome without feeling like I was starving myself. I got to eat 2 large, filling meals that I enjoyed. After dinner, I didn't feel hungry enough to snack. Reduced blood pressure. While most people's primary goal when practicing intermittent fasting is weight loss, the benefits go beyond that. More research has indicated that intermittent fasting can also help with blood pressure reduction and overall cardiovascular health. If you struggle with high blood pressure, then perhaps your doctor has told you once, maybe even a couple of times, that you need to watch what you eat. This is because your diet can have a significant impact on your blood pressure level. As you may already know, blood pressure is the force exerted on the walls of your arteries by flowing blood. These arteries transport oxygen and nutrients to your cells and help eliminate waste. You might be wondering, well, isn't it a good thing to have high blood pressure because it will get to your other body parts faster? This may be a valid question. However, as you may already know, too much of anything can be bad for you. Also known as hypertension, high blood pressure occurs when the force of blood flowing through your arteries becomes consistently and extremely high. This makes your heart work overtime as it tries to pump blood through your body. When your heart works this hard, it can give out. Hence why high blood pressure is the leading cause of heart attacks in most cases. In fact, it's estimated that high blood pressure affects 45% of adults in America. That's well over 100 million people. According to the American Heart Association, when readings are consistently at 130/80 or above, this is an indication that a person is suffering from high blood pressure. A healthy human's blood pressure reading is around 120/80. Unfortunately, hypertension can go for many years without detection because symptoms are rarely noticeable in the early stages. This typically increases your chances of having a stroke and/or a heart attack. Intermittent fasting can help you lower your blood pressure levels and consequently reduce your risk of heart attack or stroke. It's also worth noting that once your blood pressure levels become healthier, it does not mean you can go back to unhealthy eating or your initial lifestyle. While adopting intermittent fasting is difficult at first, it should be a lifelong commitment, especially if you have a higher risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. There is a high chance that once you revert to your old lifestyle and no longer fast, your blood pressure level may rise again. Lower cholesterol. In addition to lowering your blood pressure, intermittent fasting can also reduce your cholesterol. Different methods of intermittent fasting, including alternate day fasting and the 5-2 method, can help lower LDL, or bad cholesterol, as well as other markers of cardiometabolic health, such as blood pressure. High levels of bad cholesterol will increase your chances of suffering from a heart attack and/or stroke. Maintaining a high level of good cholesterol can help you flush the bad cholesterol out of your body. The alarming fact is that 1 out of every 3 adults in the United States of America suffers from the effects of a high level of LDL. But exactly what is LDL, or bad cholesterol? Cholesterol is carried via the blood using 2 types of special proteins called lipoproteins. These lipoproteins include low-density lipoprotein, or LDL. According to Hoffman, LDL cholesterol is known as the bad cholesterol because it builds up and sticks to the inside of your blood vessel walls, which raises your risk of developing health conditions which can lead to a heart attack or stroke. This buildup is known as plaque. As your blood vessels collect this plaque over time, the insides of those vessels become progressively narrower, blocking the free flow of blood to and from your heart, as well as other organs. When the blood flow to your heart is blocked, it can cause a heart attack or a stroke when circulation to the brain is blocked. If you have bad cholesterol, it's possible that you may not even know. This is because there are usually very few symptoms associated with this condition, or none at all until the later stages. However, if you have extremely high levels of bad cholesterol, you might notice little bumps on your skin called xanthomas. Alternately, you may see gray-white rings around the corneas of your eyes called corneal arcus. You may also ask, if there is bad cholesterol, then is there also good cholesterol? High-density lipoprotein, or HDL, good cholesterol, absorbs the bad cholesterol and takes it to the liver, where it is then flushed out of the body. Having high levels of good cholesterol can significantly lower your chances of developing heart disease and/or suffering a stroke. Routine blood work can also play an important role in prevention, which, as they say, is worth much more than cure. By practicing intermittent fasting, you can reduce your LDL levels, potentially before having to suffer the consequences of it. Should you already have bad cholesterol and want to lower your risks of suffering a heart attack or stroke because of it, then you may want to try intermittent fasting. Hoffman notes that during the fasting state, you can bring your bad cholesterol levels down to about 25%. This is because when you're fasting, your body switches from burning sugar, or carbohydrates, to burning fat for energy. And the best way to lower your cholesterol is to make your body burn it off. LDL can affect even those who look and seem physically fit. This is because, regardless of how active you may be, it's your food consumption that will determine your levels of bad cholesterol. If you are active but eat unhealthily, there is still a possibility that you can suffer from LDL and subsequently from cardiovascular diseases. Consider the following account of 29-year-old Andre. I was a hardcore runner who was as fit can be. You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but my blood sugar levels were pre-diabetic and my cholesterol was dangerously high. I had a penchant for eating a lot of snacks at work. My twin brother Andreas, who was also an insanely fit athlete, had suffered a severe heart problem while competing in an Ironman race. I visited my physician to get checked because I wanted to get healthier and avoid heart disease and diabetes. I was very much aware of the risks of having such high cholesterol, and I wanted to do anything to avoid it. My doctor recommended I watch what I eat, which I already was doing. I stumbled upon an article about intermittent fasting and decided to run it past my doctor. He seconded it and I started on the intermittent fasting journey, starting with cutting out my snacking. I replaced all the processed foods with whole foods and complex carbs, and within 3 months, I managed to get my bad cholesterol, or LDLs, from 197 to 140. I also dropped my triglycerides by 100 points and increased my good cholesterol, or HDL, by about 10 points. Reduced insulin resistance. As mentioned, the primary physical benefit of intermittent fasting is weight loss. Such rapid progress can be made toward this goal partly due to the improvement of metabolic health facilitated by the lowering of insulin resistance in your body. Intermittent fasting has effects on insulin levels which promote weight loss, which is what most people strive for. But exactly what is insulin? The cells in your body require glucose for energy. However, most cells cannot absorb glucose directly. That is where insulin comes in. When you eat, the carbohydrates in your food are broken down into glucose, or sugar. Your bloodstream then absorbs the glucose, and blood sugar levels increase. This increase will alert your pancreas, which creates and distributes insulin into your bloodstream. Then the insulin sticks to your cells and acts as a key, unlocking them and allowing glucose to enter. Your cells will then convert the glucose, or sugar, into usable energy. Should your bloodstream contain more sugar than your body requires, then insulin will alert your body to store the excess in your fatty cells. That way you'll have an energy stash your body can access when your blood sugar level runs low, usually between meals or while you sleep. Insulin helps your body maintain healthy blood sugar levels, preventing them from becoming too low, hypoglycemia, or too high, hyperglycemia. So, what is insulin resistance? When your cells are constantly exposed to insulin, they may become somewhat resistant to it. They then fail to do a good job of removing the excess sugar from your bloodstream. Over time, this resistance can raise your blood sugar levels. In an attempt to return your blood sugar to a healthy level, your pancreas will continue to release insulin. Overwhelmed, it will fail to meet the increased demand for insulin, resulting in a progressive elevation of blood sugar levels. As you may imagine, this can have various negative impacts throughout your body. Miller believes that studies have yet to determine a single cause of insulin resistance. However, the general consensus among experts is that the culprit may be a diet high in sugar and processed carbs. When you eat a meal that is high in carbohydrates, sugar quickly enters your bloodstream and a rush of insulin follows. If the sugar continues into your bloodstream, the pancreas will continue releasing insulin to bring the levels closer to normal. Unfortunately, your pancreas may become overworked and fail to keep up with this increased demand for long. Other factors which have been implicated as culprits include poor sleeping patterns, excessive intake of alcohol or caffeine, elevated stress levels, a deficit of exercise, and a surplus of sugary sodas. Miller asserts that though the only sure way to know if your body is resistant to insulin is by running blood tests with your doctor, you may also exhibit the following symptoms: tiredness, extreme dehydration or thirst, constant hunger even after eating, incessant urination, tingling sensations in your hands or feet. How does intermittent fasting help with insulin resistance? Intermittent fasting's effect on insulin sensitivity has been the focus of many studies on diabetics. Trumpfeller notes how research has discovered a connection between therapeutic fasting and reversing insulin resistance, allowing patients to come off insulin therapy without changing their blood sugar levels. This connection between insulin and fasting has also helped patients shed the pounds, significantly reducing both body weight and waist circumference. In a study which analyzed intermittent fasting and insulin resistance, Results indicated that people who fasted witnessed a 3 to 6% reduction in their blood sugar levels and reduced their insulin levels by 20 to 31%. In addition, the authors of the study suggest that fasting is just as effective as traditional calorie restriction methods used to accelerate weight loss and ensure good heart health. This can also help curb the progression of type 2 diabetes. Lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Intermittent fasting can also be an effective way to lower your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes has recently become a very common diagnosis in the United States of America, with more than 37 million Americans suffering from at least one variant of the condition, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Of these, approximately 90 to 95% suffer from type 2 diabetes, which usually develops in people over age 45, though more young people in our modern age are developing it as well. The main feature of type 2 diabetes is high blood sugar levels in the context of insulin resistance. Therefore, anything that reduces insulin resistance can help to lower blood sugar levels and prevent type 2 diabetes. There is also promising evidence that intermittent fasting may help put diabetes patients into remission due to the resulting weight loss. According to Werner, a study was conducted on 3 people with type 2 diabetes who used insulin and practiced fasting at least 3 times each week. Within 30 days, they no longer needed to use insulin. They also saw a positive change in their body mass index, or BMI, waist circumference, and HbA1c levels. After several months, each participant had shed about 10% of their total body weight. It is possible that type 2 diabetics who lose weight via intermittent fasting may be able to achieve remission and no longer have to use diabetes medication. So, while intermittent fasting can also help you cut calories and shed pounds in the process, it may also help individuals with diabetes increase their chances of remission. Consider the following account of Phil, 33, who was a diabetic patient. The philosopher. That's how I was affectionately known to my friends and family, because I always knew something about something. But I was frustrated and reluctant when I went to my doctor to discuss my condition. I thought he was going to lecture me about getting on insulin because my diabetes was out of control. And I didn't want to go on insulin. Well, you're in the right place then, my doctor said, because I don't want to put you on insulin except as a last resort, and I'd like to get you off your diabetes medications in general. I looked at him with skepticism. He continued to say, if we can get your weight down and change how and when you eat, we can lower your cholesterol and your blood sugar and likely get you off your diabetes medications and keep you from having to go on a statin for high cholesterol. But you have to be willing to work with me diligently on this. Of course, I agreed. So together we met weekly for a couple of months while he walked me through the intermittent fasting journey and fine-tuned what I ate. Within 3 months of intermittent fasting and exercise, I lost 20 pounds and dropped my blood sugars from a diabetic level to a non-diabetic level. My cholesterol went from a dangerous level needing a statin to a normal level. All thanks to intermittent fasting. Was it hard? Sure. I remember in the beginning struggling to fight the urge to drink my favorite energy drink or eat a couple of donuts during my lunch break. But in the end, it was all worth it. I can't imagine my life with diabetes anymore. I probably would have been amputated if I hadn't started fasting. It actually kind of saved my life. Tips for people with diabetes looking to practice intermittent fasting. If you have diabetes or know someone who does and are considering intermittent fasting, here are some things you may want to keep in mind. Discuss adjusting your medication or insulin dosages with your healthcare provider. Because you're trying a new diet which could affect your blood sugar levels, your doctor may need to adjust your diabetes medication. Regularly check your blood sugar levels. When you go for long periods without eating, it can make your blood sugar levels drop too low. For that reason, it's important that you monitor your glucose levels regularly. Because restricting your food consumption can also affect your mood, you may need to check in on the latter from time to time. Take note of warning signs such as increased irritability, anxiety, and a reduced ability to cope with stressful situations. Watch your energy levels because fasting can make you feel tired or fatigued. This is important especially if you will be required to operate heavy or dangerous machinery. This includes your car. Balance your carbs. Since your body breaks down carbohydrates into sugar or glucose, an increased intake of carbs can cause your blood sugar levels to spike. During your eating window, try to balance the starchy carbs in your meals with vegetables and protein so as to avoid high blood sugar levels and thereby keep your diabetes under control. Protect against cancer. Although scientists have made significant advances in oncology, cancer remains the second leading cause of mortality and morbidity in the United States of America. According to the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, cancer accounted for an estimated 608,570 deaths in 2021. Over the past several decades, there have been many research articles written and studies conducted, the results of which indicate that intermittent fasting or fasting mimicking diets can reduce your risk of developing cancer. According to Clifton, restriction of calories without malnutrition is the most robust method of intervention to date for cancer prevention in rodents and monkeys. In humans, intermittent fasting promotes anti-carcinogenic adaptations such as decreased production of growth factors, inflammatory cytokines, and anabolic hormones, as well as decreased oxidative stress and free radical-induced DNA damage. Researchers at 2 California universities have conducted a study to determine the link between cancer prevention and fasting or calorie reduction. They concluded that calorie reduction and fasting separately may reduce the risk of developing cancer. In addition, they noted the improvement in the effectiveness of treatment in attacking cancer cells. Esky also presents a Southern California study that surmised how fasting may make cancer cells more susceptible to chemotherapy and also protect normal cells while promoting stem cell production. A fasting theory was presented by scientists at the University of California, San Francisco, where cancer studies were conducted in mice. The notion is that fasting may actually aid in immune system regeneration. There is a strong recommendation from the results of the study that suggests a 2-day fast in combination with chemotherapy can prove more effective at slowing cancer progression than chemotherapy alone. Both calorie reduction and fasting are the subject of ongoing research, and definitive conclusions await the results of those studies. As established, fasting can reduce glucose levels in the blood. This reduction makes it difficult for cancerous cells to grow. Cancer, as you may be aware, is characterized by an uncontrollable growth of harmful cells. These cells typically feed on glucose, consuming it at a much higher rate than normal cells would. When you're fasting, one way cells attempt to save energy is by making it easier for cell membranes to metabolize insulin. This improves your insulin's potential to get rid of excess glucose from the blood. Therefore, it makes sense that reducing the glucose available to cancer cells through intermittent fasting could in turn help curb cancerous growth. It would also be prudent for people undergoing cancer treatment to consult their healthcare team before making any changes to their diet. Fighting cancer through chemotherapy and fasting may be possible, but it's important to choose the right type of intermittent fasting, one that will not severely affect you. Additionally, obesity has been noted as a major risk factor for cancer, which potentially makes fasting effective as a way to reduce your chances of developing the disease. Improve cell repair. Intermittent fasting has also been praised as influential in the process of autophagy, which Lawler has described as an important detoxification function in the body to clean out damaged cells. To break it down and put it into context, auto means self, while phagy means eat. So the literal meaning of autophagy is self-eating or self-devouring. While this sounds like something you probably don't want happening to your body, it is actually beneficial to your overall health. Autophagy is an evolutionary self-preservation mechanism which allows your body to remove dysfunctional proteins that build up inside cells over time and recycle parts of them, repairing the cells and cleaning them. Increased autophagy has been thought to provide protection against a handful of diseases, including cancer and neurodegenerative conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. Since there is currently no cure available for Alzheimer's, it's crucial to try and prevent it from developing in the first place. Longo and Matson report that studies in rats and mice indicate intermittent fasting may slow down the onset of Alzheimer's or reduce its severity. Other neurodegenerative diseases that the researchers believe can be delayed by fasting include Huntington's disease and Parkinson's. Fasting has been found to be the most effective way to trigger autophagy. In times of food deprivation, autophagy will keep the body functioning by breaking down cellular material and repurposing it for necessary processes. To put it in layman's terms, a break from eating and digestion will give your body the chance it needs to heal or repair cells and dispose of the junk inside cells that accelerate aging. Longo and Matson reveal that fasting for 2 to 4 days a week may also protect stem cells against the negative effects of chemotherapy on the immune system. Fasting not only lowers cell damage, but it also recharges white blood cells and replaces damaged ones. When the number of white blood cells is reduced due to chemotherapy, it will affect the immune system in a negative way. This means that the body will have a tougher time fighting infections and diseases. Despite the number of white blood cells decreasing during fasting periods, when the body does receive food during the eating window, the white blood cell levels will once again increase to optimum level. Extend your lifespan and live longer. One of the most exciting prospects of intermittent fasting is its potential to extend the human lifespan. Studies have indicated that combined benefits of intermittent fasting may help to extend a person's lifespan in the same way continuous calorie restriction would. Much like changing your lifestyle by exercising more, eating healthier, and quitting unhealthy habits will likely add a few more years to your timeline, so too can intermittent fasting. Because of the benefits to your overall health and well-being, such as preventing early onset symptoms of some neurodegenerative diseases and improving cardiovascular health, intermittent fasting can actually help you live longer. While you may not want to be compared to a rat or a mouse for obvious reasons, studies conducted on these rodents have indicated that rats which were made to fast every other day lived 83% longer than those which were not. This study showed promising results and point to the positive effects fasting has on longevity, and this study was done in the 80s. More recently, the results of a 2017 study indicated a 13% increase in mice lifespan when fasting every other day. Although similar results have yet to be conclusively drawn from studies on humans, intermittent fasting has become a very popular lifestyle choice among the anti-aging crowd. Considering the benefits established above and known effects for metabolism, among other health markers, it makes sense that intermittent fasting could help you live a longer and healthier life. Obviously, this also requires you to change your lifestyle in other ways. Dropping bad habits such as smoking, abusing alcohol and drugs, eating junk food, and getting insufficient exercise will improve your longevity in tandem with intermittent fasting. Cons of intermittent fasting. While there is still a lot of research needed to definitively determine any further benefits of intermittent fasting, it may be important to know some of the disadvantages of the lifestyle, especially if you're looking to try it out. Like all things, it's essential to understand the risks that it may pose, particularly for people with pre-existing conditions that may be exacerbated or otherwise make intermittent fasting unfeasible. Here are some of the disadvantages of intermittent fasting as outlined by Basaraba. Under construction. While some of the benefits of intermittent fasting have been scientifically validated through studies, weight loss, and improved cardiovascular health, there is still more human research and trials needed to determine its effects on cancer prevention and longevity. For example, since much of the earlier research has been conducted on rodents, more studies are now being conducted on humans. Until these yield tangible, concrete evidence that points to one conclusion over another, the jury is still out on some of intermittent fasting's benefits. Could lead to unhealthy food habits. Although your eating plan when you are fasting is limited to a specific number of calories, there is concern among some experts that intermittent fasting may lead to overeating or binge eating during eating windows. This may pose a risk, particularly for newcomers to the lifestyle, as they may struggle to adjust. May cause social isolation. When you're fasting, it may be difficult to socialize at barbecues, dinners, family lunches, or any other gathering with a meal as the main event. You may find yourself becoming something of a loner at such events when you cannot eat with your friends and family. In addition, if you're just starting this lifestyle, it may be challenging to remain steadfast and committed to your fast with all the food in front of you. Unpleasant side effects. Intermittent fasting can also have some negative side effects, particularly for beginners. For most people, these typically go away within a month as your body adjusts to a new diet and eating schedule. The side effects you should be aware of include fatigue, nausea, headaches, feeling weak, and hunger. If you also have a medical condition, it may be prudent to consult your doctor before you start your intermittent fasting journey. This is especially crucial if you are a diabetic, are currently on any medication, are underweight, have struggled with an eating disorder before, are pregnant, breastfeeding, or currently trying to conceive a child. Tips for maintaining your fast. Understandably, switching to a new diet, let alone adopting it as a lifestyle, can be very challenging to maintain, especially in the beginning before your body and mind have completely adjusted. This makes sticking to an intermittent fasting program all the more difficult. The following tips may help you stay on track and resolute as you look forward to enjoying the benefits of intermittent fasting. Stay hydrated. While on your fast and throughout the day, make sure you drink lots of water. Supplement with other calorie-free drinks like herbal teas according to your preference. Avoid obsessing over food. Be assured you're going to struggle in the beginning of your journey. There are going to be plenty of times you will see meals or foods you once enjoyed eating that you have to stay away from now. So, plan lots of distractions on your fasting periods to avoid daydreaming about donuts, cheesesteak, and the like. Watch a movie, catch up on some work, or even go for a run. Just make sure to stay hydrated. Rest and relax. Because fasting can leave you fatigued and feeling weak, it may be best to avoid strenuous activities on fasting days. You can still do a little light exercise and/or yoga. Make every calorie count. If your chosen plan or type of fast permits some calories during fasting periods, you may select nutrient-dense foods that are high in protein, fiber, and healthful fats. These include nuts, lentils, boiled eggs, dried fish, and avocado. Eat low-calorie snacks. Because most intermittent fasting methods allow for snacking, it will be wise for you to make sure you choose filling yet low-calorie foods. These can include popcorn, raw vegetables such as baby carrots, and fruits like grapes and melons with high water content. This will also help with hydration. Spice it up without the calories. There's a misconception that healthy food is bland or even tasteless, but this cannot be further from the truth. Seasoning your skinless chicken breasts or fillets generously with garlic, herbs, spices, and/or vinegar can make all the difference. These condiments and seasonings are extremely low in or devoid of calories, yet full of flavor, which can help in reducing those pesky feelings of hunger. Conclusion. Intermittent fasting has become a very popular weight loss tool among the health conscious and medical experts of late. However, its benefits go beyond a smaller waistline. Through cardiovascular improvement and diabetes prevention, intermittent fasting has been proven to help you live a longer, healthier life. While most research on the validity of other benefits such as cancer prevention is still in the works, the results indicated thus far promise enormous advantages. It's simply one of many lifestyle strategies that can improve your health. Eating healthy food, exercising, and getting enough sleep are still the most essential factors to focus on. Practicing these in tandem with intermittent fasting can help you achieve most of the benefits outlined in this book, perhaps even the ones not yet conclusively proven. There are different types of intermittent fasting. While some methods involve fasting for certain defined periods during the day, others only need you to fast 2 days of each week, for example. Because methods vary, so too will the results. If you practice the warrior diet, for example, the results may be dramatic, but the process may be grueling. If you have decided to start intermittent fasting, you may want to speak to your doctor or a nutrition expert today. They'll help you know which method is safest for you. In addition, it's crucial you consult with a medical expert if you have a pre-existing condition such as heart disease or diabetes that may necessitate an adjustment of your medication. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to intermittent nutrition. You will experience different results depending on the type of fasting you choose to best suit your lifestyle or preference. The best diet for you will be the one you can commit to over the long term. Because you will only know how good something can be after you've tried it, you may need to experiment with different types of intermittent fasting to find which works best for you. With the information provided, you may be able to gain a bit of insight into the level of commitment each method will require of you. Once you've settled into your new eating routine and lifestyle, you can look forward to it being a very powerful way to lose weight and improve your overall health. Just remember that it's crucial that you still eat a healthy, balanced diet during your non-fasting days or windows. Starting the intermittent fasting journey will not be easy in the beginning. You'll need to be committed and focused on your goal, whether it's weight loss or diabetes remission. The best result is to start small, preferably with either the 14-10 or time-restricting methods, which allow you to fast even while you're sleeping. As your body gets used to periods of food deprivation, you can then work your way down the funnel to the more rigorous methods. Whatever your goal or reason for fasting, remember that you can do anything you put your mind to. Good luck.